Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We're live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Delighted you could join us. Thank you very much for your support. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff is here, and Hugh McDonald on this Thursday. A kind of a more cultured Tam Cowan. Is that fair, Ruffy?
Yeah, well, I thought we would just sit back and let Hugh give us some jokes, some laughs, and carry on for the first 15 minutes. Then we'll talk about football.
He gets lazy because what happens is he lets Cowan do this. It doesn't matter what you have. If you've got the most serious subject, Cowan's got to get his gag in the first 2 seconds.
It's usually worth it as well.
And then he fires on. It's great stuff. And then he just switches off and thinks, I'll let him warble on for about 15 minutes, and then we'll maybe talk about the
Does he ever switch on? No, that's
no, eventually, 5-2. He throws a grenade and then leaves. But nevertheless, we've got lots of football to talk about. And listen, I think when we were talking on Facebook there only moments ago, we were mentioning the fact it's going to be a huge run-in all the way through to the summer. But this week is absolutely massive in Scottish football. So we've just had the Scotland-Ukraine the semi-final playoff confirmed June 1st. We'll talk about the league playoff schedule. We will look at Rangers against Braga tonight. Liverpool Man City get it into the Champions League semi-final stage, and we'll talk about Man City and Atletico. Just blistering to say the least. There's a sponsor for the Scottish Cup, 3 games to go. I'm sure Ian Maxwell was running about going, look everybody, I've got a sponsor in the Hampden corridors. And we're also counting down to the semi-finals over the weekend. Hearts against Hibs and Rangers against Celtic. We'll hear from our reporter Kerry Pollock. She was out there at Tynecastle on the Tuesday, and we'll hear from her shortly what's been happening out there in Trinent at Hibs Training Centre. Sean Maloney and a number of players have been speaking today. So with that in mind, before we start all that, I did promise you we were going to give you the opportunity to win something very special. We've teamed up with Geo Thompson, the artist. He wants to give us a great competition, which I think everybody will want to steam into. So I'll let Kerry tell you what's happening.
PLZ Soccer and Geo Thompson have teamed up to offer you this fabulous prize. All you have to do is name your favourite player for Geo to paint a unique and one-off version for you to hang on your wall. It's a simple competition to enter. All you have to do is hit the like and share button, follow us on Facebook, or subscribe to the PLZ Soccer YouTube channel to win this magnificent prize. Good luck.
Well, there you are. I'd already picked mine anyway, so you can see it there. But other than that, anybody who enters the competition, like and share on Facebook, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, Hugh, and then just name your favourite player in the feed, and one lucky winner, Geo will paint the player that they want painted.
Well, that's terrific. Oh, that was terrific. I thought it was a choice. Is this going to be the choice of what was there? So you just name your player.
Name your player. Oh, simple as that.
Oh, simple but brilliant. Yeah. I mean, what a prize. The guy's just going to sit down. Oh, Peter, I think I'll be getting that. Can I come in and assume name?
Well, I was just about to say to you, the key to this also is that if you get the right picture, he will be able to paint Bobby Murdoch for you. Do you remember those days, Ruffy? 10 years we've been together with him, and in the first 2 years, every question, somehow he managed to get it onto Bobby Murdoch.
And he was in every player of the year, any World 11, Celtic 11, anybody from wherever he came from 11.
Anyway, I think it's a great competition, and all you have to do on our YouTube feed and of course on our Facebook, if you go to the page Facebook Live and Facebook PLZ Soccer, if you go on there, you will see the competition. Kerry's there with it, and all you have to do is pop your name of the player that you want. Even Stephen Smith's already said Sandy Jardine, great player, can't argue with that. There's a lot of names going up there. Paul Brady said Henrik Larsson. So I can imagine some of you have a favourite player. It might be here domestically, it might be across European football. Depends on your age, really, to be honest with you, Ruffy. You could be one of those lucky ones, you get an up-to-date player, or you really test Geo's skills. There might be somebody of a certain age watching our programme that might say, can you do Di Stefano?
Yeah, and we've been over at Geo's studio. We saw him in action, and it is absolutely amazing to see how he does it. And the ones that you've seen there, it's lifelike. It's not just a wee sketch or anything, or what do you call these ones, these lookalike things. what is
caricature.
It's not a caricature. It's an absolute proper photograph.
Yeah,
that one at Dalglish is so emblematic of, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's just like
fantastic. Somebody's actually said Alan Gilzine. Oof, there's a name.
Well, isn't it funny? I've just interviewed Ian Muir, Alan. 60 years since Dundee won the league, and of course Gilly was a tremendous part of that team.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, Alan Gilzine was a player,
I sat beside him at a Hall of Fame night. He was at my table. What a gentleman. What a really, really nice guy. And it's not until you look at the history books and you see the stats that he's got against his name.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And played with Jimmy Greaves.
I read a great book, In Search of Gilzine.
Yeah, by James Morgan, who used to work with me with the Herald. It's an absolutely tremendous book. And another one, a sidebar to that book, is Alan Patullo's book, In Search of Duncan Ferguson. If anybody wants to get that out on Big Donkey, that's a terrific read as well.
Yeah, Alan's a good big lad.
Oh, lovely lad.
Great lad. We always like to digress into things like this, but you can come up with a name, and it might be a player, could be a manager. Listen, we'll allow you to pick a manager as well. I'm sure there are some people out there who want to talk about and get a big painting of their favourite manager as well. Okay, Scotland will play Ukraine on June 1st. This is basically the World Cup playoff semi-final at Hampden. Wednesday, June 1st is the date that's been agreed. That's discussions between UEFA, FIFA, the national associations. So, listen, it's June 1st, but I still have my doubts, Hugh.
I have my doubts as well. It's a fair way away, 6 weeks, but I hope things change dramatically that make it, a very practical solution to it. But I really do. I have my doubts to whether a fully formed and ready Ukraine team can be expected to play in June 1st. By the way, I think Scotland have played it correctly. They're not manoeuvring behind the scenes. They're leaving it to FIFA and UEFA. They're leaving it to the Ukrainians. I do think that's the best solution. But yeah, I think it's really difficult now. And I think anybody who makes cast iron predictions is somewhat off at the moment.
I think the Ukrainians are maybe trying, if they can, depending on the way things progress, and trying to get some kind of peace for the nation. Is they're looking at possibly a friendly against France prior to it, if everything falls into place, Ruffy. I'm saying it's a long way away. It's not.
No, it's not, and I think they are. I think a lot of them have been moved to training camps, elsewhere in preparation. We all know it must be hard for them, but leaving their families and everything that's going on over there. It might be the old footballing thing that you do it for the country, to lift the country. It's a kind of thing that sport, can bring people together, and maybe they'll see it as playing Scotland and winning that game could lift their country through the troubles that they're going through. I think that's the way they'll look at it.
Definitely, because Usyk, the boxer, he went to the front line to fight, and he's pulled out of the front line to go into a training camp. I think it's Joshua he's fighting, and I think he's been advised that he can make his best impact by lifting morale rather than being in uniform.
Yeah. Okay, we'll wait to see if we get near to a possible match between Scotland and Ukraine. That will be an ever-developing story. There's a sponsor for the Scottish Cup, Ruffy. Your old mate Ian Maxwell. They were running about. Okay, it's only 3 games, but the KDM Group are delighted to become the official partner of the SFA in this, sponsoring the Scottish Cup. 3 games, but with a view, I think, to extending it next season as well.
Oh, you have to say they're no daft. They're picking 3 fantastic games, 2 derby games and a final, and you hope that these 3 games are, as you say, entice them to want a wee bit more. And I think the way things are just now, you've got to take everything that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at what's on offer tonight as far as Europa League is concerned, because here are the matches. Atalanta against Leipzig, Lyon West Ham, Barcelona against Eintracht Frankfurt, and Rangers against Braga. Now, by the time possibly some people who watch the programme, some people watch it through the night if they can't get it live, you'll know exactly what's happened between Rangers and Braga, but there's a general feeling, Hugh, that full to the gunnels, Rangers with a great chance to overturn the first leg 1-0 defeat and basically get themselves into the semi-finals.
Yep, I think there'll be general nervousness amongst Rangers fans. Of course there will be, but I think there'll be general quiet optimism about tonight. I think it's a very difficult tie. I think it's a 50-50. I think what the Champions League ties showed this week is that it's tight. Once you get to the last 8 in any competition, all the sort of the wheat's been separated from the chaff. These are all good sides now, and it's going to be small margins. Even Liverpool leading 3-1 away from home, ended up drawing at home to Benfica. The Real Chelsea tie was just simply tumultuous, and the Manchester City Atletico Madrid game was the same. So I expect a really tight, pulsating match tonight. I think 1-0 is a good lead. It's a good lead. It means that Rangers have to score 2 unless they're banking on a penalty shootout. And my big concern would be where Rangers were getting the goals.
Yeah, the loss of Alfredo Morelos is still in the back of everyone's minds, but I think Kemar Roofe deserves his opportunity to say, well, listen, everybody's had their mind on Morelos, and rightly so because of the way he performs, but I've got something to offer as well.
Yes, and the only thing, the comparison is he's not a Morelos, he's not up there. But given the chances, we talked about it the other day there, the goal he scored in Europe, for the halfway line was quality, so he's got it in him to play at this level. It's a big expectation. I mean, everything. If Morelos was playing, I would be sitting here going and saying it's a stick-on.
Would you?
Yeah, I think Morelos in Europe has been absolutely superb. And if you take the Rangers take the St Mirren game out the window, and just talk about the league games, you'd be a wee bit worried about this. But if you banish that out the road and just talk about Rangers in Europe, I think that they're good enough, and they have been good enough all season in Europe to beat other teams that I think are better than Braga.
Yeah, well, listen, Rangers fans going to the game will be going there with their family members, with their pals, and thinking of the great scalps that they've taken along the way. This has been a good run, especially when you consider the quality of teams they've taken out on this one. So to get to the semi-final stage, yes, it's over 2.5 million, I think. It could be banked for that. But they've had full houses and everybody getting behind them at home. Formidable.
Absolutely formidable. And I think the 2 legs against Dortmund was their finest 3 hours. They really played well against a team that I know pretty well, and deserved winners over the 2 legs. I mean, Braga have got a bit of pedigree as well. They beat Monaco to get here. So I'm not trying to avoid it. I really think it's a toss-up. I think it's a 50-50 tie tonight. And the point I'm making about Morelos is not that Kemar Roofe is a poor player. Of course he's not. And not that he can't score goals. Of course he can. I just think Rangers have to change their dynamic, because he's not Morelos. He's not a guy that's going to rumble up a centre half. He's not a guy that's going to hold the ball up. He's not a guy that's, that physically is going to impose himself on the Braga defence. So I think Rangers' real inspiration tonight has got to come from the creative players. And I think key to any Rangers victory tonight is Aribo coming back to form, Kent discovering the form he has shown on occasion in Europe, and Ramsey stepping up to the plate. I think those 3 behind, who I expect to play behind Roofe, are crucial tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And the manager, Giovanni van Bronckhorst, is well aware of the carrot that awaits should they get past Braga.
I think physically we are ready for the challenge, and mentally, it's a big step for all of us. For the club to be in to reach the semi-finals is it's of course didn't happen a lot in recent years, so that shows the progress we've made in Europe this season.
Yeah, and what lies in wait is Leipzig or Atalanta, and then the other one is Lyon or West Ham against Barcelona or Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yeah, I think they've maybe dodged a bullet there with the other tie. You know, I think that's a harder one. We don't know who's going to get through then, but I was going to say to Hugh, if the two German sides did get through, which one would you want to stay away from?
You'd want to stay away from Leipzig rather than Frankfurt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't see Frankfurt getting through.
No, I can't either.
Yeah.
Well, they've got a draw in the home leg. I must admit, the tie, obviously, we know what we're all going to be watching, and I'm going to be watching Brian Rees, but outside that, I think West Ham Lyon would be the tie I would choose, Peter, because I've really been impressed. I've watched West Ham live twice this year, once in Seville and once in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I'm really impressed with David Moyes and that team. Really have.
Well, I understand where you're coming from. You know, because I'm a big David Moyes fan. He's my pal. Want to see him do well. But I've got to watch Rangers Braga tonight, Ruffy, because I just feel as if it's going to be massive. I think it's going to be one of those ones where, okay, there's doubts here and there, but I'm picking them to get through. I know he says it's 50-50. Hugh thinks it's tight, but I think Rangers will get it.
Yeah, I think they'll get it as well. I think the atmosphere in the stadium tonight will be electric, as it always is. If you're a Rangers player standing in that dugout waiting to get your whole... everything will be buzzing and wanting to go. And the boy for Braga is saying, it's not going to affect us, but let's see what happens if Rangers score first, if it affects them.
Yeah, and if you are watching this on, a later show, and you know the score and we've got it wrong, Ruffy, my deepest apologies to you. But nevertheless, that's what happens nowadays with the podcast and, of course, the show. And incidentally, if you get a chance, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join the football family here. Thank you to the thousands and thousands of people who are doing that on our YouTube. Lots of people downloading the app and just realising you can watch the show live on your phone on the PLZ Soccer app, and you get all the breaking football stories as well. Of course, Hugh did mention there that Lyon against West Ham so finely balanced as well, and David Moyes is looking for his team. He doesn't care how they get through, just as long as they get through.
I think when you get to these stages, I think the be-all and end-all is the result, isn't it? Because there's no point in saying your performance was very good. I've got to say Chelsea's performance was excellent, but ultimately, I think you always look for the result. You want to get through and you want to qualify.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even if you play rank rotten and get a goal that's deflected off three different players, who cares? You're in the semi-final. Yeah,
and of course they laboured in the first leg because we're down to 10 men, so that's it. I mean, just all the ties are really well balanced at the moment. I think Barcelona, of course, were the most confident having a draw away from home, and the firepower that they've got at home to get them over the line. But the rest of the ties are really finely balanced. I would say the German RB Leipzig would be a team that I would think will be in the Rangers pot in the semis. I rate them, and if Rangers get through, the person they'd be looking for is the boy up front in Konku, who's going to be. He's going to be a really world-class. He is already a world-class player, but he's going to play for one of the top teams. Okay,
there you are, a little bit of insight. Just one little sour note on this one is that Rangers have been hit with a fine of £30,000 for their fans' behaviour against Red Star Belgrade. Two separate charges for this one. Of course, throwing objects is one, and acts of damage by the supporters. So it's not something you like to see, especially on social media. There were sets of fans fighting against each other. You want to try and avoid that sort of thing. I mean, I'll tell you how stupid some fans are. I was at the Edinburgh Derby. Hearts scored a goal, and I could see a Hearts fan standing. He was only one with a red flare, standing up in the middle of the crowd going bananas, and he's standing there with a flare. And I thought to myself, I mean, why don't you just go over and get the police to arrest you immediately? But the problem with these situations, when you've got thousands of fans, they light flares, they throw objects. What they don't realise is you're doing your own club harm.
You could be doing your people harm as well. We've seen only in the last wee while, like Celtic physio cut, people injured by flying glass. And it takes us back to the old days, because we're talking about 1974 and that, Atletico Madrid, and I was at the game that night, and you know, that was the era when, you'll remember that, Alan, the era when supporters did throw, it was like Agincourt with bottles.
Yeah.
And we don't want to go anywhere near that, Peter, because there was an awful lot of really serious injuries back then.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because we're going to talk Champions League as well. There's lots to talk about the weekend, and we'll hear from our reporter Kerry Pollock, who's been out there at Terminated in the Hibs training centre to get the thoughts of Sean Maloney shortly. But let's look back quickly at the Champions League last night. Now, Hugh mentions it. I was also at that game, Celtic against Atletico Madrid in 1974. I love interviewing. I don't know if you have ever been in his company to get this story. Davy Hay tells a great story, but eventually, when they were going up the tunnel, one of the chiefs of police from Glasgow and himself decided that one of the Atletico players was well worth a $1 on the face. so that gives you an indication of what it was like up the tunnel. But there was a guy's name that sticks in my head, Ruffy, Ruben Ayala. I don't know what Ruben Ayala is doing now, but nevertheless, I think Felipe.
Time probably.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, I think Felipe will certainly be in the book of Manchester City fans. Really don't like him. Stefan Savic is another one. It was a crazy game. I mean, the tackle on Foden was outrageous, although I have to say his role deserved a 7.8 in the Olympics.
But it was... I would say that if you look back at 1974, it was literally real. It was a different game back then. It was real assaults that were going on. Yesterday it would be heavy tackling with that measure.
Raheem Sterling got a headbutt.
But that was a headbutt was, sometimes substituted for a shake of the hand in the old days, Peter. The old Glasgow kiss. That was something. I was saying it earlier, and it's terrible to admit it, but I'm not averse to all that stuff on the park.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I mean, listen, the world's moved on, and we'll just be looked upon as, oh yeah, you want a good punch up in a game. We don't. You know how they on social media is brilliant now, because they're posting old classic games. And I was watching one the other day there, I think it might have been TikTok, and I know you're going to laugh because you think, what's he doing on TikTok? But they posted a game where Bobby Gould was playing for Arsenal, and he ran up to challenge the goalkeeper for Leeds, Gary Sprake, who decided that his challenge was just a wee bit too heavy. So Gary Sprake just belted him one on the chin, flattened him. And the referee eventually sorts it all out and says to Gary Sprake, there's a yellow, that was just bang out of order for you. And I thought, there you go.
That was the same, the very famous one where Keegan and Bremner and the Charity Shield started fighting. That was sort of sparked initially.
I'll give you a better
by
one.
Johnny Giles sticking one on Keegan, and Johnny Giles got a yellow for that.
What about Norman Hunter and Franny Lee?
Oh, that was great. I mean, they actually started again on the way to the tunnel. I mean, they did it in instalments.
Yeah, fantastic, wasn't it?
But what was Lee like? I mean, you would have in a normal battle, you'd have said big Yorkshireman, tall. Norman Hunter bites your legs was his.
Bremner could start a fight in an empty house.
Yeah.
But I would stand up to anybody. Anybody, even if it was.
Well, look at him, the great picture of him and Dave Mackay.
Yeah. Although there's a story to that picture. Dave Mackay, and I was lucky enough to be in his company on more than a few occasions in Edinburgh, and we sat at a dinner one night, and Dave Mackay said to me, I was never sent off, Peter. And he says, and the reason I grabbed Billy Bremner in that famous photograph is I'd just come back from a broken leg. And he says, and Bremner had one of his wee nasty ones at me, and he says, and I grabbed him.
Not do that.
Don't do that, It was one of those, just a mild warning from a wonderful player.
Oh, great player.
But nevertheless, Atletico Madrid last night, I was glad they went out, Ruffy, because they are everything that I don't like in a football team.
I think it's their manager. The manager winds everybody up. He's winding the supporters up, he's winding the players up, and I can imagine there's always somebody in a team when you know you're out, the first thing they say is, right, I'm having somebody. And that's what they were like, but I think it all stems to the touchline. The way he carries on, the way he jumps up and down, and I'd love to know what he says to them in the dressing room at half time.
Well, I've got my theory is that most teams are a kind of representation on the park of their manager. You could sometimes just watch a team and say that's a Ferguson team, that's a Klopp team, that's a Guardiola team, that's a Mourinho team. And I think you could certainly say what a Simeone team was. And I think there's a method behind it, because I think what Simeone tries to do to his players is say, right, you're not the best players in the world, because obviously if you're the best players in the world, you'd be at Real or you'd be at Barca. They're looking down at you. This kind of chip in the shoulder thing, this thing, and what we've got to do to beat these players is get amongst them. You know, be physical, be aggressive, be disruptive, and that Simeone's been at that as a man. And by the way, what a great manager!
Yeah, but I mean, you mentioned that there, but they do have some really good players. I mean, Griezmann's a good player. João Felix is a good player as well, Ruffy. So maybe they've got the odd enforcer here and there, but nevertheless, I'm glad they're out. Man City, I'm not a big fan of Man City. You know, if you can't win the Champions League after spending over $1 billion, you need to have a long, hard look at yourself. In contrast, though, Liverpool, who spent a fair few quid as well, they managed to see off Benfica in an absolute rip snorter.
A great game, and I think maybe the intensity of Liverpool went down at 3-1. When they were leading 3-1, I watched some highlights after, and then when you're winning 6-2 in aggregate and you've got a heavy schedule, I'm not saying the down tools because these are professional football, maybe the intensity just goes down a bit, but Benfica was smashing. I mean, the funny thing about Benfica is, like in old-fashioned football, you're looking at Benfica and a great result for them would be to get the quarter-finals. People my vintage can remember them winning the thing.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why they're not winning the thing is that all their great players, including one you mentioned, Felix there, is now at another club.
Yeah.
They don't stay. It's like Monaco, the great Monaco team of a couple of seasons ago, the great Ajax team that just got beat by Spurs. They don't get that extra year to develop.
No,
they just lose their players.
Think because of Champions League now, if you are going to do anything quarters, semis, or I don't think anybody's going to upset the apple cart of the big super clubs now. But if you do, you have to have that 1-2 year window where they're all together.
And you don't get that now.
Well, the boy at Benfica, I'll tell you, I'd sign him right now, Nunez.
Well,
he hit the ball in the back of the net 3 times.
And he'll be the next one away. And it's like Ajax. Ajax were that away from beating Spurs and going to the final. Now, in the old days, you could say, well, maybe keep them for 2 years, 3 years and develop between there. Within one window, 3 of them were away. Next window, another 3 of them were away. You just can't build a team now.
No, exactly. Anyway, apart from anything else, Liverpool are through, Man City are through, Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, well happy to be in the last 4.
I know we will talk about the game and the things we happened, the goals we conceded, and all these kind of things. But on a day when I'm not over the moon about qualifying for the Champions League semi-final, then something is really wrong, and maybe it would be the right time just to quit.
We are not used to play this competition much. It's the 3rd time in our history just to win semi-final. So, we felt a little bit the pressure, and Atletico Madrid was brilliant in the second half.
Yeah, they got there in the end. So I look at the teams now. Liverpool against Villarreal. I hope Liverpool win, because that means Scottish clubs will get an automatic, I think, straight into the group stages next season. And City against Real Madrid's just got the makings of a cracker.
Absolute cracker. I think Liverpool will be strong favourites at 3 hours against Emery's Villarreal, who will be looking to sit and negate Liverpool's pace up front, but I think Liverpool will be too good for them. The other game I simply can't call. You know, just
it's tough, isn't it?
Tough. I mean, it's just like you think 1 to 11, City have got bigger players, you know, but there's 4 or 5 in that Real Madrid team that are not just great players now, but they'll be great players for the ages.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you're going to look at Benzema. You're going to look at Benzema 10, 15 years on, and he'll still be talked about. Modric is going to be talked about. Vinicius is going to be talked about. They've got real top quality in certain positions.
Well, Vinicius Junior's got it all in front of him, but Modric, for me, I place Modric alongside the likes of a Pirlo, middle of the park, a Xavi, a Iniesta. The last 30 years, he's in that group of players that you think, special.
The thing about it is, if you didn't know who Modric was or all these players that you mentioned, and you just turned up at a game, you could tell right away within 10 minutes who's controlling that game and who is the main person.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what these people do. You know, they just grab the game by the scruff of the neck, and everybody else just plays run about them, and they make the passes, they make all the... They're just wonderful to watch.
I think, sadly, because of the strength financially of, and as you know, I mentioned this 5 or 6 years ago that European football was in trouble because, quite simply, English clubs are going to dominate for a long, long time unless something changes financially and structurally in the game. But I think it's going to be Liverpool, Manchester City.
I personally hope it is. You know, I like Real Madrid. I've always liked Real Madrid. I'm always into the white strip. Yeah, way back for the 7-3 game. I think a white strip looks magnificent on the park. But no, I'm like you. I think Liverpool, Man City would be an absolute spectacle.
I think that's a very rational and reasonable choice. But Pep Guardiola has a manner of not. What is the word that we can use before the water? Of not being too clever in big games. Of maybe messing up. He's messed up a lot of semi-finals with Bayern Munich and with Barcelona, and I just wonder if he's got another mess up in him, because otherwise Man City, if you want 11, should win this. But De Bruyne, I'd be wanting to see how fit he is. But Peter, see, imagine being Klopp at the moment. They could finish the season with 4 trophies.
Yeah,
4 trophies.
Yeah, it could potentially be, and if you win all 4 of them, you could potentially be laying claim to being the greatest club side ever.
And if you do that 4, I mean, because then you frank everything that's against them. As if you take them against the great Liverpool teams, with the dynasty of Dalglish, they kept doing it.
Yeah.
And that's what made them a great side. They just, every year, bang, European Cup leagues and that. So you've got to keep repeating it. But if you suddenly take 4 trophies, you've already been Champions League, you've already been a Premier League winner, and you've already been World Club champions. By goodness, you're in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing that we're talking about that, and every time we have a domestic here, and all we do is complain about many games you're playing. How do you keep your motivation going to win 4 major tournaments?
But with all due respect, Ruffy, any time I hear one of the managers of the super clubs talking about we'll get injuries, I away and give his peace, because they've got a cast of thousands. They've bought people. Chelsea are knocked out, and people are a wee bit sad about it because they made it was such a great game against Real Madrid. They've got 30 odd players out on loan. Something has to change in our game to stop what's happening with the clubs.
Yeah, I mean, and if you the depth in Liverpool since Klopp's come on. Klopp has so many achievements at Liverpool, but it's probably his greatest achievement is the depth off the bench now. He's got real quality coming. Firmino is not a starter now.
No, Divock Origi would hold down a position.
Absolutely. Divock Origi scored in the Champions League final.
That's what I'm saying.
He's out with the washing. He's out with the washing.
Yeah, it's incredible. Okay, you can give us your thoughts on that. Don't forget, we've got a competition. Geo Thompson, the artist, is giving you the chance to pick your favourite player. You can do it in the feed here on our YouTube channel. You go onto our Facebook page, have a look at the video. Kerry tells you all the details of what you have to do. Like, share and follow us on Facebook, and of course if you hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, you've got an extra chance to win, as well as putting your favourite player in there. Gio will paint your favourite player for you if you're picked out as the winner. So roll on with that. Okay, domestically, here's a strange one, Ruffy. I didn't see this one coming. Keith Lasley is going to quit for Park to replace Tony Fitzpatrick as the St Mirren's new chief executive. Yeah,
well, obviously the connection's there with the new manager. He's seen what he's like behind Laz is like behind the scene. It's a new manager in it. Motherwell, there's a sort of a continuity when you've worked with somebody for a long time and then somebody else comes in.
But it's chief executive?
But I think that role will be more than just chief executive. I think he'll entail a lot of other things rather than just being a chief executive.
I think it's a good move for Lasley.
It's a good move for him, yeah.
Because and the thing about him as well is he's well badged up. I think he's got a UFA licence, and he may also have done a course on directorship as well. He's a bright guy, ambitious guy. He's obviously looking at the Motherwell situation and saying, well, could I go here?
Yeah.
Jump over there, yeah, a good move. Knows the manager, works like manager. A club that's got challenges as well, because it's it's got the ownership model of the fans. So it's got its ways of have its challenges as the season goes on, and but yeah, I think it's a decent move for him.
Yeah, I like Keith. He's a great lad. He's been on our show on more than a few occasions. Ruffy. Another guy who I've got a lot of time for is Kenny Miller. Really like Kenny. He's been one of those guys that I think will look back with great pride on what he achieved as a player. He wanted to play football. He just wanted to play it regularly. He got a chance to play twice for Rangers and bagged more than a few medals along the way. I think it's been a great career. He's got 3 games to take charge at Falkirk. Martin Rennie, the manager's gone back to the US of A, so maybe Kenny can stake a claim.
Yeah, any time I've heard Kenny talking about football on the telly or whatever, you know, we all know what he can do as a player. I think he's the kind of player at Falkirk, you know, he's done enough in the game for the players. Whenever he's got something to say, they listen.
Yeah.
You know, because he's been it, done it. Falkirk are just going backwards just now. I don't know what's happening there. They need to win these 3 games, you know, and he tried it at Livingston, didn't he? And it never worked. It was a joint managership. So this might be the club that he can go and turn round and then kickstart his managerial career again.
Yeah, it's always difficult though. If you go to if you go to a troubled club, you might be you could still be a good manager, and you just can't do it because the circumstances and everything doesn't fall. The stars don't align.
Yeah, because 9 times out of 10, if you get a manager's job, it's because the club's troubled. You know, it's the way of the world. I think Falkirk's an absolutely huge job, and if you made an impact here, even getting them into the Championship, which would be most unlikely this season, and only by the route of the playoffs, you know, would be a huge fill-up to them. But to get some foundations in place for a good tilt at it next year is what, because Falkirk have got to be up at least in the Championships. And I would say the top end of the Championships.
In the Championship, they're a 5,000 fan base. And we played them when we were in the lower division, and whoever played them, there was 5,000 there.
Yeah.
You know, the fan base is there, they just need to be successful.
Well, there's a huge gap. I was saying to Peter before the programme started, if you did a list to 1 to 15 or 1 to 42 of the clubs in terms of size, I mean, where would you place Falkirk? You're placing them round about 15.
Yeah.
In size.
They've made huge mistakes over the last 5 years. Huge mistakes. At boardroom level, the academy, I think, angered a lot of supporters. And then manager after manager, whether that coincided with, you know, a lack of ambition, funding, you name it, restructuring, it just hasn't gone according to plan. And they were, you know, I can remember 4 or 5 years ago, they were such a well-run club, and you know, you had a good youth policy there. But listen, we wish Kenny well. I really hope he does well. He's a great lad, and he's got so much experience to pass on in football. Okay, Scottish Cup semi-finals. There's some crackers. Kerry's been out at Hearts on Tuesday, and today she was away over there at Trinent to catch up with what Hibs are doing ahead of their Scottish Cup semi-final.
Hibs and Hearts will meet once again this weekend in the Scottish Cup semi-final. The last time the two clubs met here at Hampden, it was a Liam Boyce penalty that put Hearts through to the final in the last minutes of extra time back in October 2020. The last time Hibs were crowned champions of the Scottish Cup was back in 2016, whilst Hearts haven't had their hands on this piece of silverware since 2012, despite being the more successful club out of the two in this competition. Having not yet picked up a win over his rivals, Sean Maloney is confident that his side can change that.
And I'm also quite clear on actually how we can hurt Hearts and how we did hurt them. So from that and the work we've done this week, I've got confidence that if we are better at the things that cost us, then we will give ourselves a good opportunity to win the game.
Over on the other side of Edinburgh, Hearts boss Robbie Neilson won't be getting too carried away after their 3-1 win over Hibs last weekend, and says his side are well aware of the differences that this stadium has in store.
The place will be absolutely rocking. You know, I've been there before in a semi-final with fans, you know, against Hibs, and it's an unbelievable atmosphere. I've been there with no fans, and it's difficult, you know, but thankfully both times we've managed to get a result.
Bragging rights, redemption and a ticket to the final. Who will take the glory? You've heard both managers say it before. It's the Edinburgh Derby, so anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Edinburgh Derby. Really looking forward to that one. I think there may be more Hearts fans than there are Hibs fans this time around.
Well, there'll still be more Hearts fans with optimism than there will be Hibs fans. I mean, Hearts are in such a good run of form, such convincing winners, particularly in the second half in the last Derby match. And really a terrific season for Hearts, as I always say. I mean, I'm bored myself with it, so apology to the viewers. I mean, but Hearts have won, what I would say would be 2 consecutive titles. Won the championship and they won the title this year because they're never going to separate Celtic and Rangers.
Yeah.
And so they're the best of the rest by quite a considerable margin, qualified for Europe, on the threshold of a Scottish Cup. I don't think you can get much better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think man for man, when you look at the strength of Hearts, I think they're better. I still think Sean needs, another transfer window to make the ultimate changes that he wants for players that want to play his style and start to offload the last of the players that he doesn't want. And there's a few that Tam, McManus and myself have looked at and picked out, and you've picked out as well, Ruffy.
Yeah, I mean, every manager that comes in gets his ideal of what kind of player he wants. The previous manager wanted a midfield that were all, Scott Allen and McGinn and all them, he liked that. And then the next manager came in and went, oh no, I want a Newell and I want somebody in there digging, and every manager's got a different idea. I think it's really exciting. Well, I think the only thing that the Hibs supporters at this moment in time can look forward to is what kind of player is he going to attract. When they gave him that job, he must have said something in the interview like, this is the kind of player I want to bring to this club. So the Hibs supporters have to wait and see who the people are. I'm like you. I think there's far too many Hibs players been there far too long, and they need a shuffle. Not a lot of them. But to miss Nisbet and Boyle has just ruined the whole season.
Yeah, I think the calibre of player that you lose, and then if you don't replace it with a similar style, and they don't have enough flair and game changers for me, Hugh, to hurt Hearts. I think Hearts have got a couple of gears more than them.
I think so. I mean, I've got this feeling that Hibs will just nick it, and I have no idea where it's coming from.
That's why we brought you on today. You just get that wee gut feeling about everything, haven't you?
I don't know why, because I looked at it, funnily enough, I was looking at it quite closely this morning because I was researching an article on it, and I was looking at the players and the match-ups, and there's nothing to back it up.
Well, I was going to say, how can a man who writes wonderful articles for the Daily Mail, and before you actually go, you do all this research into the player, or indeed the game that's coming up, and you do all of that, and yet you come on this show and you just somehow almost flip the coin in the air and say, I've got a gut feeling.
I know, I can't even explain it. I wish I had a rational idea for it, but sometimes...
Never start an article I've got a gut feeling.
But you know how it's sometimes just say for some reason I just think Hibs could just pull out, and again, and I'll really look at it closely this morning.
Yeah.
And
well, tell me who's the match winner. Give me some shred of evidence to back up your claim.
I don't even know if I can. The young boy Mickelson that they've signed. I mean, he's been slightly promising. I just see it as a very tight derby match where, just like one little thing can change it. If you look at Hearts, and you say, well, give us the idea who could win it for them, of course, you go from Barry Mackay. Halliday was excellent. Sims is unplayable at times. So the evidence is compelling, but that's all I can say. I've just got... So everybody can slaughter me Monday morning when Hearts won 5-0 or 5-1, but...
Yeah, there are times over the 10 years, Hugh, where...
I still surprise you.
You surprise us, which is a great thing. I mean, and of course, for an intelligent man like yourself to actually base it on no logic, I'm quite happy with that. That's the joy of the game, isn't it?
Well, how many semi-finals have we seen? That you're going like Queen of the South, going to a semi-final and things happen. I think semi-finals, one-off, things happen. Somebody gets sent off, something you could never, ever imagine. I just can't see Hibs scoring an open play. I can see them scoring on a corner or a free kick. I can see Hearts scoring an open play because they've got the Barry Mackay, they've got the Sims, the boys.
Yeah.
They've got
You can't
Kingsley.
even say, Ruffy, if Hibs score first, because they scored first.
They played well in the first half.
No, I think when
first half hour I thought they were okay.
Just like we were talking about in a couple of the games, standing in the tunnel, there will only be one set of teams confident, and the other team will go on, well, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Hugh, Kevin's just said, Hugh McDonald has just put the kiss of death on Hibs. Yeah, listen, it could just be that wee lucky gut feeling, who knows? But nevertheless, I look at Hearts and I think they've got players there that can. The one thing they have got is they've got the best goalkeeper by a long shot. He's been absolutely magnificent for Hearts since returning there, and he's a boyhood fan. Yep. And I think Craig Gordon's been brilliant, but they've got more than enough there to see off Hibs. I might be wrong. We will wait and see. Give us your opinion on that. And if you are one of those Hibs fans who likes competitions, don't forget, if you go onto our Facebook page, there's a competition where Gio Thompson will paint your favourite player. Ruffy said that if he was looking for somebody to bring back, that could come back into the Hibs team now from the legends of yesteryear, he'd bring back Pat Stanton. You never know, there might be somebody out there's a competition winner wants Pat Stanton painted in the Gio Thompson style, Ruffy.
Yeah, there's somebody of that era, and I'm sure that's certainly a player that you would want, hanging in your wall. Again, as a player, absolutely fantastic, but as a person, even more.
One a great man.
Oh, fantastic.
He'll be chuffed this week as well because his team won the Lowland League this year, Bronny Rigrose.
Yeah. Can I ask you this, Hugh? When you were growing up, were you somebody who would, put clips of the Shoot magazine or anything, whatever was out on your wall? Would you do that?
It was before.
Evening Citizen?
I very much so. And the other thing was, I was quite posh with my football magazines. Roddy, my brother, he got the Shoot, and I got Goal. Do you ever remember Goal magazine, which was looked upon as slightly a bit more highbrow?
Yeah. Which is possibly why you've directed yourself into that.
I was very much that. I mean, I was very much of consuming those magazines. Like, do you ever remember the things you used to get where the little league things, the ladders?
I've still got mine.
It was ladders, and what I loved was the question and answers with the players' favourite meals, steak and chips.
That has come back to me in 50 years. I'm still haunted by that interview I did for Shoot, because they asked you things and you gave them an answer. And now modern day, did I say that?
Yeah. What was the
answers were absolutely
some of them
embarrassing.
They were embarrassing. I can't remember.
What?
So a superstition one was a big thing. Which I went into depth with. There was other things. What did you eat? And I was saying,
do you know what we'll do, Hugh? I'll get the copy of it. I'll show you some of his answers. I've got it in a box somewhere.
I loved all that stuff.
Magic, wasn't it?
I just forget. Yeah. By the way, and I was talking about this to somebody just last night, was that I still love all that, because see, the idea of a football fan, and I'm sure everybody that's watching this at the moment, is that little kind of thing opens up knowledge of somebody. And what football fans love is that we peek into the dressing room, that wee inner sanctum that we've never been allowed.
I like the one, I'm not going to mention the Sunday paper. There's one of the Sunday papers do it with the players, and I think it's great because it's what the manager, what manager did this and what player is in the dressing room. It's different from whether you're eating, what car you drive, what thing. It's more.
I love that as well.
I have to say, I don't know about you, Hugh, but you can tell the people that watch. Charlie Adam watches the show.
Of course he does.
When Ruffy was away for a week, he watched it on his phone, on downloading the app. I wonder, do you think we should ban Tam Cowan for his contribution on the feed here? Don't read it out, by the way, but do you think we should ban him? I mean, he's a disgrace. He really is. I talk about decency on our feed.
He's just banned. He's just banned now.
If he's not eating a fish supper on his holiday at the moment, he's just mentioned. Can you read that? Because you're blind as a bat, aren't you? But nevertheless, I'll tell you about it later. But anyway, apart from anything else, we had footballers on our walls, and Tam says he had Carmen Electra, so you can see where he's going with it. You're a bad man, Cowan, I'm telling you. I'll ban you
from
from
thought you had to keep them under your bed.
No, he's getting banned. Graham has mentioned there. Graham Boy says here, Roy Aitken, he'd have, and I presume he's entering our competition. Lots of people have that favourite player that they want painted by Gio Thompson. So get on our Facebook and good luck with the competition. Anyway, apart from that, that's Hearts against Hibs. Before we go, your gut feeling for Hearts against Hibs. So let's see if he's going to go logic. How will Rangers react to playing Braga? Is it just forget about it? Here comes the Old Firm game. It's a big part. let's go at it again and make it, hopefully for them, a week to remember. Is that their mindset?
I think the mindset is getting this one out the road and then having to deal with the consequences, whatever the result is. If they win the game, they're going into the Celtic game as high as you can possibly be. You're going to have some injuries. Some people might not make it, but you're going into the game. I always think going into big games positive rather than negative. And obviously, if it didn't go well tonight, they've got to pick themselves up and go into that game. I think that would be a big factor if they lost it. I said to you the other day that at this moment in time, I can't split them. I know Celtic are firing in all cylinders, but on the evidence of the Ibrox game, that game could have went either way. I know Celtic won it. But I'm like Hugh, it's a semi-final. Yeah. Both teams have got quality players. Both teams have got match winners.
And you get a gut feeling, Rafi?
No, I'm not going to say that. No, I might have it tomorrow. I'm not going to the day.
He's got his Benny calling it.
Exactly. So there's no feeling?
Not yet. Tomorrow, I've got tomorrow. He's not got tomorrow. I can surface the Braga score and then anybody's picked up any injuries. He doesn't have that. So he'll have to go with a gut feeling now.
Yeah, well, okay. Gut feeling. Let me give you a couple of permutations on this then to get a Rangers beat Braga by a couple of goals. Great performance, and they're into the semi-finals. Suddenly, it's Hampden. Who wins?
Celtic.
Even if Rangers are on a high.
Yep.
Okay. This effectively. It's one of those games. I mean, is the logic always at this moment with you because of the strength of their side?
Two things. One thing I think is that, and I think really crucially, is any sports scientist at all will tell you that you can't properly recover from Thursday to the Sunday. It's not doable.
Yeah.
So Celtic will be going in completely and utterly recovered. Had a week of no interruptions, to work on everything they're going to be about. Rangers are going to have at least an hour and a half, perhaps 2 hours tonight of real top elite football, and I think that depletes you. And I think it doesn't mean that Rangers cannot and will not win on Sunday, but I think it tilts a balance towards Celtic, particularly if you're a Celtic team who are in really top form at the moment and have no real any concerns over Giakoumakis or whatever. Kyogo's now fit. They have no real kind of personnel worries either. So while either team can win it, I wouldn't be shocked if either team win it. I think the logical non-gut feeling is Celtic.
So Celtic Hibs for you in the final.
Celtic Hibs for me in the final.
Okay, my view on it, Ruffy, is that Rangers will get past Braga. And look towards the semi-final, but I don't see them getting past Celtic on Sunday, and I think it's going to be a Celtic Hearts Scottish Cup final.
Yeah, I would go Celtic Hearts at this precise moment in time. I don't think either of the two games, the semi-finals, will be runaway wins. I think we'll be in tender hooks right until the 90 minutes, and so will the supporters. But I just hope we get two good semi-finals.
Yep, absolutely. You can give us your view on it as well. Incidentally, if you want all the up-to-date news and, of course, video interviews with the managers and players, then why not download the PLZ Soccer app? There are, I'm sure, 1,000,001 football apps out there, but you get a lot of exclusive content regarding Scottish football, which I'm sure you'll enjoy. We've got European football covered, we've got English football covered. If you download the PLZ Soccer app, you get all the breaking football stories, and you can watch the show live Monday to Friday, and you can also look at some of the other content. Richard Foster yesterday picked his dream team. We'll have that up soon. Charlie Adam picked his dream team. There's some great dream teams already up there. Hugh has picked his. Ruffy has picked a dream team, which I think most people are going to struggle to beat Ruffy's dream team. I've got a few special people coming into the studio who might challenge him along the way, but he's certainly up there if you want to have a look at that. And there's lots of other unique content, one-to-ones with Gordon Strachan and Pat Nevin and James McPake talking football. Even Jamie Murphy's on there talking about his career as well. Great to get them in here, and there's lots more to come. So well worth downloading the app, well worth getting on our YouTube channel and subscribing as well. We hope you can do that. Just before we go, the Scottish Football Writers have released the nominees for the Glens Women's International Player of the Year. There are 4: Caroline Weir, Erin Cuthbert, Jen Beattie and Rachel Corsey. And a talented 4 at that.
A very talented 4. I mean, Jen Beattie will get lots of support. Great backstory how she's come back from illness to be there. I think for me it would be Cuthbert.
Yeah. Even with Caroline Weir's chip from the edge of the box, which is just sublime.
I mean, Caroline
Great goal, wasn't it?
And Caroline Weir's got a great backstory as well, and playing in a really good Man City team at the moment as well. But just Cuthbert for me.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it amazing, 4 or 5 years ago, or maybe more, none of these girls were playing down in England. It just shows you the standard of where we've went.
And the generation is that these girls like Caroline Weir, etc., they're role models, because I've actually interviewed Caroline Weir, were men players, because they didn't have women's role models to follow. Now any young child, including my 5-year-old granddaughter, coming through to play football, I've got these women as their role models, and that's hugely important.
I think it's good though that this year the PFA Scotland Awards on the 1st of May, which hopefully we'll all be attending. The women will be acknowledged on that night, and the football writers, the week later, they'll get their platform on the stage to be celebrated.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, just before we go, last point, the playoff schedule for the Premiership. We all know the dates. The Championship playoffs are there now, Ruffy, so you now know the dates if you can get through all those games. If you actually secure your place, you now know exactly what you've got to do. The pyramid playoffs organised by the SFA as well. Saturday, April 23rd. April 30th we'll get Highland League, May 7th Lowland or Highland League champions versus 10th in League 2, and then May 14th 10th in League 2 versus Lowland or Highland League champions. So it's all brilliantly set up. I cannot wait to see how it all unfolds, and that takes us nicely to Champions League on the 28th of May, which we've got our Champions League night. Hopefully you can take a table of 10. If you go onto our Facebook page, you can see how you can join us all for that. Tam Cowan is going to be doing a wee bit of speaking for us as well. Really looking forward to it. But more importantly than all of that, thank you to you for always watching the programme and telling your friends about it as well. Hit the subscribe button and join the football family, and download PLZ Soccer's app. And if you go onto Facebook right now, you'll be able to see the competition to win yourself that painting. Good luck with that. From Hugh, from Ruffy, and from myself, Peter Martin. Thanks for watching.